you look at this pad, there's the sketch in the middle, okay? So the way this part is built and the shape of it, very conducive to building it on that plane. And then basically in here, you do a mirrored extent and type in obviously half the value and you get that piece. The other thing that goes along with it is this one right here, that pad looks like that, and sketch right here. And this one is pushed up from the bottom. It's sitting on one plane and it's pushed up from the bottom. And if you notice, so there's those two. You go in here and I'll hide some more of these. There's the third one, so it gets pushed from the center out. And when you go into that sketch, if you notice, you can see the outline of the sketch that I had. You can see this one that got pushed up from the bottom. And then you can see basically how this thing intersects. And if you notice this is overbuilt to the center of this arc. So it wasn't just, and this part is, this is one of those parts as well that you need to do that. And I'll show you, well, you can see it in this view. If you look at where this part intersects this shape, let's just say you extrude this pink piece up and you're a couple mils shy here. Or you're right on the edge. You don't know where to take it when you're looking at it. When you go to put fillets on this part, there's going to be a mismatch. It will let you do a Boolean and add these two parts together. But the issue is when you go back to do a fillet on the parts, you'll have an issue where you don't have a good overlap of solids. So this one obviously gets built. Gets built as a chunky solid, and this one on the bottom, this one right here, if you look at it's built as a chunky solid. So it goes from the center of this one up to the center of this hole. Now, if you look at this shape, this is just an addition on one side. So the back side doesn't have this feature. It's built on the same plane and then it's just pushed in one direction. No reason to basically go out here and do a position sketch to build it with the shape of this part. Obviously there's other parts that you should use position sketches for. If you wanted to come in from the side of this and basically you wanted to look at a true view. The issue with that is I've already got, because this part's so prismatic, there's the sketch for it. So it's based on X, Y, and Z. There's the value of it. It's 96 millimeters from this center line. And if you look at the way this is built as well, this is another chunky solid. Okay, so it goes into the center of this as well. And this is one of those ones where if you look at how all these shapes are coming together, if you don't overbuild this, let's say you just touch maybe this edge, and up here there's a little bit of a gap. In other words, it'll unite the part, but there's a little bit of a gap. What happens is when you go to do your fillet, it'll start to run the fillet, and the fillet will start to look strange, or it'll stop. It will just basically interrupt itself. So that's the other reason when I talk about chunky solids to use those. And when you look at this one could have came, the green one could have came down to the center of this. There's enough overlap here though. And it's basically, there's a fillet on this edge, and there's gonna be a fillet on this edge. So what I wanna go over on this part is, you've seen how I do the chunky solids or what the overlap is for. When you build the similar product tonight that I hand out, you can either build it that way or you can do it with position sketches. You can use traditional Booleans when you unite it together, or you can use an assemble. Since I have all these pieces in here, I'm going to do an assemble, because if you look through this, part, everything's pretty logical as far as how it's built. And for tree organization, take this, hide it. If you look at this part right now, if I go up here and I say define and work object, and do the control key again, and I gotta look too, I gotta make sure that I've got, yeah, these are all pads, because there's no subtractions in here. So I'm gonna pick all these, and I'm gonna right mouse click at the end, and I'm gonna say assemble. There's that. Now, what I want to do is hide these sketches off. So I want to show you something else. I want to show you two commands tonight that you're going to start using more of. So I got a question on one of the parts, the compound rest handle, about putting a hole in it. This part obviously has holes in it as well. The problem with the compound rest handle, there's a sphere and you have to put a hole in it. Well, you have to do it from the inside out, because unless you've created it and you've got a line to basically push the put the hole on, it won't look at this edge and say, okay, I can put a hole there. So like this one's gonna have a hole in the side of it. But before I go on to the holes, what I want to show you is this part has holes all over it. When you model something, make sure that you do it in this order. You do all your bodies, you assemble them or you unite them together. Then you go on and you do your fillets. Then you do your holes at the end. A lot of students try and do the holes right up front, like this one's got a hole in it, it's pretty big. Well, what happens is the size of this one right here, the size of this sketch, if you overbuild it because it's down here, a lot of people try and take the hole out of this before they unite this part. So then they've got an overhang on the center of it. So, like I said, the easiest way to do this is do it as if you were going to either machine the part or you were going to build it in pieces and then glue it together. This one specifically, now that it's united, I need to put some fillets on it. And fillets, you want to put those before you do holes. Holes are always at the end because they're easy to get rid of. And other than holes being easy to get rid of, fillets are easy to get rid of. So you always keep the geometry high in the tree. And because some people go through and they'll unite two pieces together and they'll say, okay, I'm going to fillet it. So then you see two parts united together. You see some fillets in the middle of the tree. Then you get on a little bit farther. You see some more parts that are united, and then there's actual fillets in that. So it gives you a break in the tree. Let me show you how the fillets are going to go on this part. The first thing you need to do is, when you do fillets, you need to be up here and you need to say define and work object, because that's the part body, all right? And that's what you're filleting the whole piece. And if you look at this, obviously, this is the whole piece, because the whole thing's highlighted. What I'm going to do is, the other thing that you'll hear me talk about as we go into the future is going to be how you position your fillets, okay? When you build fillets in any modeler, you try and build all your, what I would call your primary fillets, and then your secondaries. The primaries build the road for the secondaries, okay? And I'll show you a couple of examples of that right now. And it's not, I can't tell you in 5 different models how you would do it. It's based on the shape of the geometry of the part. I can give you guidelines on how to do it, but obviously, however you create the part is gonna kind of dictate how you put fillets in. So when I go into the fillet command, the first thing it asks me for is it says, what are the objects to fillet? And this thing's got 3mm fillets on it. So the part that I'm going to give you tonight is in metric, by the way, and it's marked metric. So you have to switch back out of English go into and create a metric model. This one, since I want to build the primaries for the secondary fillets, I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to pick this one, and I'm going to pick this one. Okay, so that gives me 2 of the fillets on the bottom. And I'm going to do the same thing over here because I'm going to have some primary fillets on this side as well, because what happens is the fillet wraps around this part, and if I don't have those in the part right now, what's going to happen is it's going to run around here and it's going to stop at this edge. So think of this as a dirt road, and then somebody comes along and they say, oh, we're basically going to dig this out now, and we're going to put concrete on it, and this is basically going to be your foundation for your final parts. The other one, this has got some vertical fillets on it. So in this command, you can do one at a time, or you can do multiples. And one thing about this is make sure that you're picking an edge. A lot of times you can pick a face, and then it'll fill at all the edges. You just want an edge. So I wanted my 4 verticals there. And if you look, that's going to give me the one that wraps around the bottom of this part to transition into this. So I've got these ones, I've got these ones. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to start looking at if there's anything else that I should probably fill it. Well, these ones right here, that one and this one. So once again, I'm building that foundation. And if you kind of look at the part, the way that the fillets are going to transition. So now that I've got this one built down here, I'm going to come back and I'm going to pick this. I'm just going to pick this edge right here. And if you notice, the whole thing highlights, the whole edge, because I did those primary fillets that are vertical. If I did not do those, this would stop at every intersection. Okay, so since I did those now, and if you look at this, this is set to tangency propagation. I'm just going to say, okay, there's my fillet on the bottom. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And it's another reason why I built these in advance. Let's do this one at the top next and see how far it goes. This should wrap all the way around. There's a transition between this and this. It may stop. Let's see if it goes all the way around. So if I pick this edge right here, and let's see what happens. Okay, so it went all the way around. It gave me the fillet up here. And once again, it was because I did these ones to begin with. This one and this one. I'll do the one down here now, this transition. And it wraps all the way around the part. You can see the red line. Say okay to that. And I got to tie in this one on this edge. So now that I've got these two already built, I'm going to pick this one next. And so because I already had these two built, it looked at, do Control Z on this, show you. The amount of material that I have left here is between this face and this face. Okay, and down here it's between this face and this face as well. And you can see there's a little bit of an intersection here. So when I go to fillet that, what the modeler does is it looks at it and it says, oh, you want to transition between that shape, this fillet, and this fillet at the bottom. And it makes the transition. Now, if if you don't do a lot of these fillets, and you start to build them, and they're out of sequence, or how should I say it, they're just kind of haphazard, I'll show you what you can do on the bottom here. So if I just come in here and I say, okay, I'm going to put that one on, and I'm going to come back and put this one on over here. Then I'll put one on the front. And I didn't want that. I want the edge. So you can see how bad this is already starting to look. And then if I came back and said, well, now I want to start putting these other ones in. So I put a vertical in here, and I look at it. These are what I would call pointed fillets, okay? And pointed fillets aren't correct. Fillets usually, the only time you have a pointed fillet is where a part runs out onto a tangent surface. And this should be one of the fillets that basically wraps around the bottom of the part, makes a real easy transition around the edges. You can see it's abrupt. So it will let you make fillets incorrectly. So there's the example of an incorrect fillet. And if, show you this. Let's say you do this one, let's see where it goes. Yeah, see, this one doesn't even want to run now, and I'm not sure, what's it telling me? What's the error? Oh, it doesn't like that edge. That's strange how it's doing this. It doesn't like that edge because it doesn't understand what's happening. I wonder if I do this first. This one, if it'll allow me to put a fillet on there. Yeah, see, it doesn't like that. It's saying, let's try it like this. I put one on this one, this edge first, maybe it'll run. There it goes. It wanted that one first because it was crashing into it. Now, one of the things you don't want to do, and I've seen many instructors teach like this, they'll hit the control key, they'll pick all the edges, and they'll hit the fillet command, and they'll let it run. They never usually go back and look at the way the fillets look. It's usually, hey, it built a fillet. Okay, so when I tell you, basically this is, in some instances, these things can't be tooled the way they're modeled, okay? So that's one reason that you do them correctly, and the other reason is a lot of times let's say the part is, you're going to do some kind of a structural analysis with it, a lot of times these kind of fillets are weak in the corners, okay? So, and it takes a while to get used to the way a fillet needs to look, but there's so many things downstream that happen that's why you need the fillets to be correct in the beginning.
How do you know which order they're supposed to go in?
Okay, so I said, depending on the way the geometry looks, there's no clear answer for that. In other words, I could give you another model that looks completely different, and you'd say, well, I can't use the verticals on here. Now I got to use the horizontals. On this one specifically, I know that this shape, I know that there's going to be a fillet on the bottom of this, so I know it's got to turn this corner. Okay, so because I know it's got to turn, I'm going to do this one first, or these verticals first. Because, like I said, when you do the primaries, then your secondaries, or I'll call it the final fillet for this edge. When I pick this now, That's exactly what I'm looking for. So I know going into that I'm gonna have a transition between this and this shape. I also know that I'm going to have, when this one runs down this edge, it's gonna have to turn and go around here. So, because I already know that, then this is another one of those ones where I do this one first and I do this one first. And then I do this one and this one.
So you look at, pretty much you look at what path it's gonna take, and then if there's a line that crosses that path, you fill it in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you gotta kind of look too at the geometry
Yeah.
and say, well, I know that this is gonna flow like this. So you do everything prior to that final one.
Mm-hmm.
Just like this one here, I think now if I think this one will crash because this one's not filling yet. Maybe it won't. It's ready to go. Let's see what happens. No, it went. Okay. So here's the other one up here. I know I'm gonna have a transition here. So I come back, and I do this one, and this one. And that way I know if I look at the top, it's like, well, okay, this should run all the way around here, should run all the way around the part. So if I pick that as well, that kind of gives you an idea when you build these, I'll call them the primary fillets. The last one you pick, you should light up that whole spline or that whole shape of what the part is. And so that one goes into place with no issues. And then come back here and do this one. Show you